There is a language that never made it into books of grammar or speeches at conferences. It has no vocabulary of applause, no grammar of hustle. It is spoken in pauses and held breaths in the long, quiet minutes after a tragedy, when the world seems to have forgotten its own soundtrack. This is the silent language of resilience, and it asks us to learn a new kind of fluency, one that measures courage not by noise but by depth. Resilience is often dressed up in metaphors of armor and battle, and for good reason. Crises demand action, and mythic tales of overcoming provide necessary scaffolding. But if you look closer, beneath the battle scenes and triumphant finales, there is another narrative, quieter, less cinematic, but no less powerful. This narrative reframes resilience as an interior architecture, a shape of attention, a cultivated tolerance for uncertainty, and a patient long-term tending of the self. Where force seeks to eliminate vulnerability, stillness learns to sit with it. From a psychological perspective, stillness is an active, skilled practice rather than passive surrender. Neuroscience shows that when we pause and breathe, the nervous system's alarm circuits, the amygdala and its network of stress responses, downshift. In practice, this means we create physiological space between stimulus and reaction, allowing the prefrontal cortex the time it needs to make choices rather than reflexes. Resilience in this light is not the absence of fear, but the ability to hold fear in awareness without being hijacked by it. It is the steadying hand that steadies not by suppression, but by recognition. This is happening. I can notice it. I can respond. Philosophically, stillness has been honored across traditions as a path to clarity. Stoic philosophers asked us to contemplate the impermanent nature of all things, training the mind to withstand loss through a form of practiced equanimity. Eastern traditions taught meditation as a means to meet experience without immediate grasping or aversion. In both cases, the discipline is similar. Not to avoid pain, but to witness it without letting it shape the entire horizon of meaning. From this vantage point, resilience becomes a deliberate orientation toward life's flux, a readiness to engage, informed by a refusal to be defined solely by external outcomes. Culturally, the valuation of stillness varies. In some communities, silence is revered as wisdom. In others, it is feared, mistaken for weakness or indifference. Modern consumer culture often conflates busyness with virtue, rewarding visible productivity and penalizing rest. Yet there are alternative models embedded in communal rituals. The elder who listens more than speaks, the family that gathers to grieve without needing to fix, the culture that celebrates rites of passage where reflection, not performance, marks growth. These models remind us that resilience is social as much as it is individual. The capacity to be still is reinforced or starved by the communities that surround us. When silence is allowed, held, mirrored, witnessed, it becomes a vessel through which collective strength can flow. There is also an ethical dimension. Stillness opens a space where choices can be made in line with values rather than impulses. Rushing reacts. Reflection chooses. In that moral quiet, we ask harder questions. What matters most? Who will benefit from this decision? Are we protecting ourselves or escaping responsibility? Resilience shaped by stillness tends toward integrity. It resists the easy heroics that look good on a resume, but harm relationships and meaning over time. The silent approach can be slower, less glamorous, but ultimately more sustainable because it roots action in purpose rather than panic. Another perspective to consider is the creative one. Artists, writers, and composers often describe stillness as the place where new work is born. The mind needs a blank pond to reflect the world. Constant stimulation blurs any coherent reflection. In creative practice, resilience is not brute persistence alone. It is the ability to return to the quiet center and listen for the thread that wants to be woven into form. This aesthetic resilience values patience and the economy of force. A few deliberate strokes instead of a fevered barrage. Practical life gives us smaller, everyday illustrations. A parent who pauses before correcting a child. A leader who breathes through an angry email before replying. An individual who chooses a slow, restorative night over an extra hour of anxious productivity. These are acts of quiet resilience. They might not be televised, but they reshape trajectories. They preserve relationships, reduce cumulative stress, and make space for repair. Stillness is not avoidance. It is a conservation of resources for the moments when action will be most effective. But silence can also be dangerous if misapplied. Using stillness as a mask for avoidance, pretending nothing is wrong when harm persists, or withholding voice in situations that demand it are distortions of the language. Resilience must be balanced with discernment. There are times to amplify, to protest, to call attention loudly because injustice will not yield to whispers. The skill is in knowing when silence nurtures strength and when silence becomes complicity. The silent language, then, is not absolute. It is context-sensitive. It teaches us to read currents, when to sink and gather, when to surface and steer. Another tension lives in the body. Somatic work, practices that sense and move the body, reveals that stillness and movement are partners. The body remembers trauma not as a concept, but as tightness, disrupted breath, and nervous system vigilance. Through practices that combine mindful stillness and gentle movement, people can re-establish safety inside themselves. The deep work of resilience is often sensoromotor, learning to let the shoulders drop, to lengthen the exhale, to inhabit the present with the body as ally. In this embodied silence, we reclaim agency operating below the level of words. Economic and political realities shape our access to stillness. People living with chronic insecurity, unstable housing, or relentless precarity have less bandwidth to practice quiet reflection. The language of resilience can feel privileged when framed solely as an individual moral achievement. A fuller account acknowledges structural conditions and demands that cultivating resilience be paired with advocacy for systems that reduce unnecessary suffering. True resilience must include collective remedies, policy, community support, mutual aid, because silence without solidarity can become a lonely endurance rather than a supported strength. Ultimately, learning the silent language of resilience is an apprenticeship in humility. It asks us to accept that not all problems can be fixed quickly. Some need time, tending, and the slow accretion of small choices. It invites ritual, a morning breath, a journal entry that names pain, a conversation where one listens more than speaks. These tiny practices are not glamorous, but they are cumulative. They teach us to hold an inner equilibrium that is more robust, because it is practiced in peace rather than forged in crisis. And there is a paradox here that deserves emphasis. Stillness strengthens action. When we cultivate calm, our decisions become clearer, our commitments steadier, our interventions more precise. We conserve energy by refusing performative reactivity and invest it where it matters. The person who has learned to sit with discomfort will not be easily swept away by drama. They will respond from a depth that honors both self and other. In this way, resilience becomes less about surviving and more about stewarding a life. So how might we begin? Start with the small permission to pause. Notice 3 intentional breaths before answering a call. Close your eyes for 60 seconds and feel the weight of your feet on the ground. Set a tiny ritual where the week's hardest truth is named aloud to a trusted listener, and then released into shared care. These practices are not magic, but they are reliable. They build the neural pathways and social scaffolds that sustain deeper stillness when storms come. In the end, the silent language of resilience asks us to widen our definition of strength. It invites us to see power not only in loud achievements but in quiet fidelity. Fidelity to our values, to our bodies, to the relationships that matter. It asks for a patient courage, the kind that chooses presence over performance, depth over distraction. There is a dignity in that quietness, a steadiness that does not need witnesses. It roots us in a form of strength that outlasts applause. If you listen carefully, you will find that stillness is not emptiness, but a kind of listening so full it becomes creative. It holds space for sorrow and for the possibility that sorrow will transform. It allows seeds of wisdom to sprout slowly, unseen, until one day you realize you have grown something that can weather winters. That is resilience speaking in its softest voice, and learning to understand it may be the most radical thing we can do for ourselves and for each other.